Hi guys, the Breakdown Rugby podcast, and we are back with another episode. Huge news today is the England provisional training team has been released. Some huge names, huge, I think, anticipation for this World Cup with England considering their route. But what do we think of that training squad that's been released today?
Yeah, no, I quite like it. I know obviously you've got some players to come in and come back, but there's a lot of promising players in there.
100%.
There's a lot of disgraceful names. Tom Dunn,
Right. Here we go. I know
never,
we have to talk about
never, never should he put an England shirt on. He's a Prem standard player, and if he went into a proper international game, you get turned inside out. Players I'm liking to see though is Tom Pearson, actually in the England squad. He's playing. He's up there with the big boys. Danny Caird, a veteran, is back. I think that could be quite exciting. And I'd say Aaron Dell being around the squad is also quite exciting.
I don't mean to contradict myself. I have slandered Dunn, right? And I think fairly I have, right? I'm not contradicting myself. I think the skill gap between him and Jamie George is huge, but upon reflection, he probably does make the bench maybe a reserve backup hooker for England. I don't think he's going to win them a game, though. I don't think he's going to change the difference, make a difference in a game. I don't think he's that sort of player.
If he's not going to make a difference, why is he in that squad?
Are the other hookers going to make a difference, Kieran?
I personally think he'll make a positive impact. And what I really like about this training squad is the recognition of Bath's front row because they have been crucial for Bath. They've been absolutely crucial. And to see all three of their starting front row in the squad for me shows that Steve Borthwick knows what he's doing.
No, he's a clueless manager. He is clueless.
We talk about South Africa having their bomb squad. This is the role that the Bath front row could play off the bench. I genuinely think
Rohan, let's just take
no, Kieran.
You've got Bath bottom of the league, losing to pretty much everyone for most of the season, and you're saying you're happy with Bath's bomb squad being in there making a difference against the likes of Mal
Let me tell you something about Bath's front row, okay? They very rarely get to start with those three players because they're very, very, very rarely fully fit. Towards the end of the season, we saw what a fully fit Bath front row can do. Abano, Stewart, and Dunn. What they can do single-handedly, they've won games for Bath. They are that good, and I genuinely would not be shocked if I saw them coming off the bench as a bomb squad for England.
A lot of the times where where England have lost games, looking at New Zealand game in the autumn, well, they didn't lose, but they managed to have a draw. And I think the South Africa game, 2019, I do think the impact of a front row, a new fresh front row coming off the bench, right, could be important. I think they tried to do that with Marler and Marlon, who was the other one, Dan Cole, but I don't think they can play that role as effectively anymore. They're older. But with the emergence of that Bath front row coming off the bench, we could maybe start to see the strong England having two front rows.
You've been infected by Rohan's Bath bias. I could think, listen, their front row, Val Palmer Ruskin is way better than Ben Urbano. He doesn't touch Ben Urbano. Harry Thacker, as an international player, would be far better than Dunn.
Yeah,
he's skillful. He would actually add to England's attack, which we haven't had in the last couple of months. And tight head, we haven't got many good tight heads in the country. I won't lie. And I'll take Sheehan
role. You could play a Sheehan role, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Why are we picking?
When I compare,
I'm not finished. Why are we picking an eighth team that finished eighth in the Prem, that lost pretty much every single game, bar a couple of victories, which you mentioned on the group chat earlier, and saying, you know what, they can compete with the likes of Furlong, Sheehan, Porter. They would get folded. Simply as that.
Not even Australia. Not even Australia.
Let me show you where you're contradicting yourself, because you're saying you're using the fact that Bath were eighth to go against their front row. Okay, you bring up Harry Thacker, he finished ninth. Bath's front row wasn't fit for most of the season. They were fit towards the end of the season, and that's when we had a very good win rate. Okay, and you keep bringing up Harry Thacker. Okay, Harry Thacker, he looks good. He does well when he's attacking in a Bristol system. We're talking about international rugby, where defense wins games, where kicking and set piece wins games. Someone like Tom Dunn, who has a very high percentage from the. He has a very high percentage from the line out, and he defends like no other hooker in the country.
No, he's not. He's
international rugby.
He's good at knocking his teeth out and making himself look like an idiot with a haircut. That's all he is good. I promise you.
Have you ever heard of a hooker making 33 tackles in one game?
It's one game. That's one game. That is one game.
Well, have you seen Harry Thacker score 2 or 3 tries? 2 or
In
3
one
walk-ins. He's not gonna have that
walk-ins
space.
or not, walk-ins or not, it's still a try.
He's not
If
Dan
Tom
Sheehan, he's Harry Thacker. He's not going to be able to do what Dan Sheehan does.
and anything Tom Dunn is trotting
No,
around.
I do. I think Tom Dunn will offer something completely different, which is what England need.
England don't need a lumpy, slow hooker running around with a shit mullet trying to act like he's something. He's not a good player. I said it from day dot.
What they need is someone who's going to give them a high percentage from set piece, who's going to tackle,
Harry Thacker.
Harry Thacker's not going to. He's not a reliable player.
Guys, I was going to say, moving on with the forward pack, I think another talking point we're going to have is Zach Mercer coming in for 8. I think some England fans have said he's the answer. I don't think the involvement of one player is going to necessarily turn England's results around and have a massive impact. But as I've said before, I think England are starting to maybe make the few right tweaks that they need to make to have a well-functioning forward pack. But what are general thoughts surrounding the inclusion of Zach Mercer?
I just think it's sort of all coming into place at the moment. I think there's a lot of Saracens players who've been playing really well and won the Premiership. There's a lot of other good forwards that will get into the pack. And then you add Zach Mercer into the mix, and I think it will all just click it could. I don't think it will. It could all just click for the England pack.
I'm excited that Zach Mercer's in the squad 110%. He's behind Sam Simmonds. Sam Simmonds, reflecting on it over the last probably 4 weeks, I think Sam Simmonds starts to me at 8. I don't think Don Brandt's it, and I don't think Zach Mercer's it.
Simmonds has excluded himself from World Cup selection.
Well, that was a bit silly of him then, wasn't
it? Yeah. I would love to see like a back row of Ludlam.
No.
Can you, like, with his handling skills, maybe Benno and then Zach Mercer, or really? But I realistically think England's best back row would be like a Curry, Mercer, and Benno. I think you'd have the running ability of Benno, right? 2 massive all of them can jackal, right? All of them are good in the loose. I think probably a top 3, top 4 back row in the world if that combination was allowed to play together.
I genuinely think that back row would be unreal. You have Benno, who's explosive, Zach Mercer, who's very good in the wide channels, and Tom Curry, who's just very good at the breakdown.
It would be a very good back row. I would take out Benno and put Jack Willis. I don't think you can go past Jack Willis. Why is that an all might? Jack Willis is an outstanding rugby player.
I don't really understand.
He's a bigger jackal threat. Why would you like Tom Curry is very hot on the breakdown, and he can play in the 15-meter channels, and he can be explosive in the ball carry. He played number 8 for England for a long time. Jack Willis is a breakdown specialist, so we need him in there to be that kind of Richie McCaw kind of role over the ball all the time. And I don't think any other back 3. I don't think Benno can offer you that constant jackal threat when you've got the likes of
Tom Curry.
When you got the likes of the South African packs going in on his knees all the time, coming in the side every single minute. I don't think Benno can give you that. I don't think he's heavy enough.
Kieran, no, but Tom Curry can, and that's why I put Tom Curry in the team.
I think,
but I would take out Benno and put Curry. I'd take out Benno and put Willis.
The thing that all 3 of those players have over Willis, in my opinion, is just work rate around the park. Work rate offensively, work rate defensively, and I'm not saying Willis is a bad player, right? But I think ideal situation, Willis is the sort of player that you'd maybe put on with the Underhill. 20 minutes left of the game, strong players that can come out and seal out a game. I
would actually say that Willis's work rate is probably better than all the other back rowers.
Come off it! Come off it!
Tally, who got the most tackles in the England versus Ireland game at the end of the Six Nations?
Willis.
So who on that basis, who is the best? Who's got the most work rate off that statistic?
Benno's not been allowed to show. Okay, it's Willis, but Benno's not been given the chance. But I think he could be as good as Willis, maybe even better. And Kieran, we've seen how good Benno is. I think around the park, holy how deep his bag is, right? But he's just not been given the chance to play. And I think he has something that England have been lacking: mobile, dangerous forwards that have a good ball carrying ability and that can do it on both sides of the ball. That's why I think Benno needs to be in the starting team. He needs to be in that 6 or 7 shirt for England.
I would agree that Benno needs to be in the 6 or 7 shirt. And I think, Kieran, what you're saying about Willis starting is, I think what you say about the breakdown threat, I completely agree with you. You need it for 80 minutes. And there's no doubt that our best 2 jackalers are Willis and Curry. But when you start both of them and they tire out towards 70, 80 minutes, for that last 10, 15 minutes of the game, then you don't have the breakdown threat because your two breakdown threats are tired. If you have a Willis or a Curry on the bench and the other one starts, then you have, so say Curry starts, Willis comes off the bench. When Curry tires, Willis can still pick up the load in the breakdown.
I don't think the breakdown is big as a problem in the last 20 minutes because it gets broken up traditionally, right? I would say start the Curry and the Willis, and Benno coming off the bench, being that loose forward, every asset and every attribute you guys mentioned, that would be perfect in the last 20. I just don't think he can do it for 60, 70 minutes against like a Springboks pack. I don't think Benno has the size to do it.
No, but if you have him and Mercer starting, it's not like Ben Earl's going to be the only person carrying because you've got Zach Mercer there. You have Lawrence or Tuolangi in the centres.
Mercer won't start. Mercer won't start. Mercer won't start at the World Cup.
What do you think he shouldn't, or do you think he won't?
I don't think he should.
No,
Why
not enough games.
No, I don't.
I'd rather start Dumbrand than a Mercer. And I know Dumbrand.
Say there's only players that we have given game time to that haven't proven themselves. So why would we stick with them when you have someone in Mercer who's been, and I'm going to use this term loosely, a world-class player for the last 2 years?
I think Mercer, he's been playing in France, I'll reiterate what I said. He's been in France playing a very French style of rugby, and he's very good at that offloading, being explosive in the 15-meter channels. It's great. Coming to an England game where everything's, in my opinion, a lot slowed down and a lot simplistic, and it's got to be very set. I don't think Zach Mercer would benefit in England's system the same way a traditional 8, like a Billy Vunipola, would benefit him. I think Billy Vunipola getting the front foot would be more.
Then can I ask you why do you think Harry Thacker would do well? Because Harry Thacker is exactly what you just said. Why would he do well in an England setup and Zach Mercer wouldn't?
I was saying Harry Thacker should be in the bench for England. I would say Jamie George would be the starter. Because I think Harry Thacker in the last 20 minutes, like Zach Mercer, think of Harry Thacker, Zach Mercer on either touchline being that kind of loose forward, it'd be perfect. But I just think Jamie George has to start for the moves in the early couple of 20, 30 minutes when it's important.
All good points made. I think next thing to look at now is the backs for England. Mitchell not included, but we are seeing the re-emergence of Harry Randall and Danny Care in that team. Gavin shaking his head there. And I do think England's backs are looking a bit threatening. I will have to say, I'm very happy with the inclusion of Caden Murley because I think he's a player that, I think we talk about the jump from club rugby to international rugby. I think Murley could be good, a very, very good international rugby player because of how physical he can be as well. Switching between that sort of more elusive running game to be more physical. But what are general thoughts surrounding the backline selections?
I think when you focus in on the scrum halves, they're probably just there to be a scrum half for others to train around them. If I'm honest, I think when Jack Van Portfleet gets back, when Ben Youngs gets back, when Mitchell gets back, these will be the players that are in genuine contention of the 9 shirt. But these current players, they're not going to be there for much longer, I don't think.
Completely agree. I don't see any of those 9s. Probably, I think Ben Spencer's got the best shout of getting in that England team. But I don't think they're going to go to the World Cup. I think they're just there to train, kind of get the merch and go home kind of thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I would like to see Harry Randall maybe get a shout in for England, maybe against the Wales, maybe against a game in the autumn, in the game in the warm up. Sorry, because I do think he does have something special about him in terms of, I think what England miss in a 9 that other prominent countries do have at the moment, like a France, like an Ireland, like a New Zealand, is a 9 that can attack well. I think if you go with Ben Youngs, you have a 9 that's very traditional. I think he's a trustworthy 9. He's done the role for years. You know he can do a solid job. If you go for Jack Van Portfleet, he's a bit too young, a bit inexperienced. I'm not saying Harry Randall's not a gamble, but I think he can add an attacking dimension to England. But what are our thoughts about him?
I don't think there's anything that Randall can add that Mitchell can't add. So I think Mitchell's the player that you go with. And if you're going to a World Cup, you're taking 3 scrum halves, aren't you? I think Mitchell gets on the plane. No debate. I think Ben Youngs definitely gets on the plane just out of experience because you need that experience. And then the other 9s, I'd give them a go in the warm-ups. I'm looking at giving Ben Spencer a go as a genuine opportunity to get him playing important games. I think Ben Spencer does get a go. Other than Van Portfleet, we've given a lot of chances to. I still think he has potential to be a world-class player in the future, but for now, I'd stick with Ben Spencer.
Yeah, I don't think Ben Spencer starts. I think Jack Van Portfleet starts because I think we've given him the game time. Why waste it? And I think he has the attributes to be that 9. He just needs a bit of direction around him. Ben Spencer, for me, would probably be in the squad as third choice. And I'd say Ben Young's on the bench, experienced head coming off the bench. And I'd say Ben Spencer is just in and around the squad just in case of an injury.
100%. No, that's valid. I love to see.
Tally, just from the selection, obviously with Ford and Farrell being unavailable, they've gone with Marcus Smith and no other fly half, which shows that there's 3 fly halves going to France, and it will be Smith, Farrell, and Ford. I think
cemented.
100%.
Another big mention I love to talk about is Joe Cockernasinger. I mean, finally back against Ireland. We saw it a couple of years ago at Twickenham, ran riot. No one could deal with him. And now he's finally back in an England shirt, fit, been playing well for Bath. I think he could be England's answer for their physicality problems out wide in their attack. I do.
If you're England, I think looking at the team, I'd rather go with a Murley than a Cockernasinger. I think ideally England's back 3 should be like a Freddie Stewart, Arundel, and Anthony Watson. That's what I'd ideally go with, right? Because you have a mixture. But I think Caden Murley's beginning to put his hand up to get into that team. Cockernasinger.
The problem I have with that, Taddy, is the amount of times you bring up the highest level they've played in is the Prem, or they've only got X amount of caps.
Yeah.
Murley hasn't played for England, and the highest level he's played in is the Prem. And I personally don't hold that against him, but you hold that against so many different players. So what makes Murley different?
Well, what I've said, it's just like what I've said in the beginning. I think a lot of Prem players are very good at Prem because of the style that's played there. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I think it's the difference of intensity. In comparison to club rugby to international rugby, I do think Murley's like, I think the roundedness of his game, he can definitely, I think, succeed in the international level. The way that he can switch up between being an evasive winger and then also a more physical winger, right? I think in a one-on-one situation at international level, he could still be very, very dangerous. I think he's probably more dangerous than Cockernasinger in a one-on-one situation. I think just because he has more ways of evading a defender, getting through a defender. That's what I think personally.
But that's not normally what they use to sort of look at international wingers. When someone comes onto the international scene, they're always going to be good in one-on-one situations. But then you look at them and say, what's their defense like? What's their high ball like? What's their positioning like? And these are all things that Murley hasn't been tested on yet.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Another name I forgot to mention that will probably start for England, and I know you don't like him around. Max Malins will have to start for England. Just based off his club form season, he automatically walks into the team. So I'm looking there and I'm saying to myself, if you're looking at it, right, if we have to ask ourselves honestly, Arundel, Anthony Watson, Malins, Cockernasinger, Murley, right? Where does Cockernasinger rank with those 5 wingers? If I've mentioned all of them, Marchant, I think will also Johnny May as well.
I want to say one thing about Marchant. I've never understood why he's in that England team. I don't understand. No. I'm being deadly serious. I know what he can do for Quins, and he had that really good season with Quins, and he was outstanding. I don't see why he's been in this England team for so many times. Quite often he hasn't been selected, and when he's on there, he hasn't done something that I'd be like, you know what? Yes, he could. He does have a place. I don't understand it, and it's not an awful take to say that.
But the reason I disagree with you, and I get that he hasn't done the same things in an England shirt that he's done in a Quins shirt, but at the same time, a few years ago when Ollie Lawrence made his debut and got onto the team, everyone was saying, get rid of him, he's rubbish. But you have to remember, these players, when they just come onto the scene, the coach isn't going to make a game plan around him. He's going to get the ball when he gets the ball. Like, he doesn't have the opportunities that he has in a Quinn shirt, where more often than not, they're saying, get the ball into Marchant's hands.
Rohan, this is the thing. Like, if you're looking at Marchant, so if you're looking at the England wingers, right, I'll probably put Marchant in that middle band. If you're looking at it, we said Arundel, Hassel Collins, Cockernasinger, May, Marchant's in there, Caden Murley. There's around 6-7 wingers for England there. I will put Marchant in around the 4 spot. I will put Cockernasinger at 7. I think he's the worst winger England currently have.
I mean, okay, put it this way. Marchant's not available to play anyway because he's moving to France. But if he was available, I'd have him under Watson, and I'd play Watson on one wing and Marchant on the other. And I'll explain why. Because Marchant is probably, other than Watson, Watson's clearly the best. So leave him out of the conversation. He's the best. So Marchant is the best in the high ball. He's the best defensively. He's the most solid all round.
Physical
So I
as
would
well.
start him. Yeah, very physical as well. He can carry. But because he's not available, I think you go for the next best thing, which again I think is Joe Singer. I think he's another player who's physical, who can defend well. He's very good in the high ball. So under that, you're maybe looking at a Max Malin, who I think just doesn't offer the athleticism you need from a winger. That's just my opinion on it. I think in the Premiership he's good, but internationally as a winger, you have to be athletic, strong, powerful, fast.
This guy doesn't rate Malins, but he's allowing Tom Dunn to walk into the squad. Doesn't make sense.
Malins comparing a hooker to a winger right now.
I'm not comparing. I'm just saying you're happy to say that Malin shouldn't be in this England team. Doesn't offer anything, but you're allowing some.
I didn't say he doesn't. I didn't say he doesn't offer anything. I said he doesn't offer what I think an international winger needs.
But then you're saying Tom Dunn offers what a hooker should need for England. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, he does. I think Tom Dunn does, and it's a completely different position. So I can't.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's non-Bath player out, Bath player in. That's what I think it is.
Bro, you know what I think it is? I think it's a thing of like, I don't know. I think Singer's like a very, very good club level winger. But I think coming up against Australia, where you're gonna have guys like Corabetti, coming up against Argentina, all those teams deal with him. All those teams.
No, but this is where you're wrong, and Kieran will back me here because he's come up against these teams. And
how long ago? How long ago?
Last year, Taddy, when he's been fit.
If there's one thing that you cannot slate Singer on is when he's put on that England jersey, he has been phenomenal, and there's no doubt.
Absolutely,
he has.
Oh my god!
One player we haven't even mentioned, who I think is probably below the Singer level for me. I've got Marchant and Singer. I think is a Tommy Freeman. I think he can be very good for England.
Could be.
He could be solid. I reckon. I think for me, I still think Ollie Hassel-Collins needs to have a chance with England. I don't think in the Six Nations he was really given a chance. A lot of people saying he was playing badly, but I don't think he was really given many ball in hand opportunities to actually showcase what he can deliver.
I think as a winger, that's for you to go and find your opportunities, come off your wing. I don't think he came off that wing once. If I remember watching him in the Scotland game, I don't think he came off his wing. So I think it was kind of coming into the team, no one really knew their identity as an England team. And I think he struggled to maybe put his foot down in the game a little bit. But, he could be very good for England. He could be a very good asset.
Guys, just to wrap up, last point to make. Looking at this England squad, obviously with some people to come back, the Itojes, the Farrells, all of that. What is your realistic expectation for England's World Cup warm-ups? What would you say? What do you think England needs to achieve to make you guys feel confident going into the World Cup with that route you have? Because I think you have a relatively easy route to the final. I don't want to say easy, but in terms of what South Africa, Ireland, and France have to deal with, your route is easier. But what would you say is the benchmark for a good warm-up for you guys?
I honestly think the results are irrelevant. I think there are certain players that need to get game time that need a good look at. I think you're looking at Zach Mercer, a Joe Singer, another scrum half, maybe a Ben Spencer. You need to test these players out in the warm-ups and see what they can contribute internationally.
I agree. I don't really care about the results in the warm-ups, to be honest. I just think all the players need to get on the same page and understand how they're going to play at this World Cup, because I don't think they have an identity yet 4 months out from the World Cup.
I was going to say, looking at if you're playing a Wales, if you're playing like those sort of teams, I honestly would say if you're playing Wales, maybe start Smith and Mitchell, because it's Wales one, and you just need to try out combinations. I don't think winning at this point matters this far out from a World Cup. The most important thing is literally combinations and making sure that your combinations are solid and making sure everything's tight. So I think what Rohan said was true as well. Maybe even Tom Dunn has to start against a Wales or something like that. Maybe even. Kieran, is that ridiculous for me to say? Is that
not even?
2 out of 3 of us think that Tom Dunn makes the bench here. You could go with a younger Jack Walker, who I think has potential to be a better player than Tom Dunn. But if you're looking at someone who just has to be reliable, there's no one more reliable in the hooker position than Tom Dunn.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm pretty sure that's everything that we need to talk about today wrapped up. We're gonna have for you guys coming up soon some Rugby Championship build-ups, some Rugby Championship hype. We're all gonna be repping Team South Africa here, aren't we, boys?
Nope.
And after that, we're gonna have some World Cup warm-up preparation stuff for you guys as we lead into the World Cup year. From us to you guys, it's been another episode from the Breakdown Rugby Podcast. See you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.